I will open the meeting. The time is now 5:47. The date is Tuesday, August 6th, 2024. The chair, me, Megan is virtual, as well as Jada. And Heath is in attendance. I will now open the meeting and take a roll call. Megan, yes. Jada?
Yes.
Heath?
Aye.
Thank you. Please note, we are doing a hybrid meeting with in-person and virtual attendance. If a member of the virtual public would like to make comments during a public hearing, please use the raise the hand function on Zoom, and you will be assigned a speaking time. If you are listening in via telephone dial-in, press *9 to raise your hand, and then press *6 to unmute yourself. This meeting is being recorded by the local scene, and a record of this meeting will be posted on the local scene website as soon as they are able. Anyone intending to make an audio video recording of this meeting should notify the chair at this time. All right, seeing nothing, we will move to first is member recruitment under updates.
Yeah, so I had one person reach out. I gave them some information and how to access the recorded meetings. Also said they could, watch the meeting live. I haven't heard anything back. Matt hasn't really heard anything. It's kind of where we stand on our end. I don't know if you guys have heard anything.
No, I don't know if anyone wound up taking the post that you had created for the website and used it on Facebook. I've been a little busy with a few other things lately, but I used to think that, and it's true that we're kind of in a phase where there aren't a lot of people in Kingston that want to volunteer for things. I think it was probably a few years ago, a lot of committees like this would have been full, and they would have had a list of people who were waiting to get on. A lot of the people who myself and others that I've talked to about it have thought about, hey, so-and-so would be great on an open space committee. Their bandwidth is full. It's probably why they think they'd be a great person, is that they're busy. So I think we just have to so that gives me optimism that eventually we'll find somebody. We just have to keep plugging away at it. But every name's come up when we've looked into it. They can list off in the job, their family, their side hustle, their whatever other responsibilities, other committees they're on, or whatever it is, they're too busy. So we'll find someone eventually. I think if we did some volunteer outreach, there might be some people who would come out to one thing or another and then decide they want to, join up. But one person I know who would love to get involved at the Henrik property because he lives on West Street, only wants to be involved in the property on, near his house. I don't think he'd really want to get involved in the committee work. So it's just a question of, and I hear there's other people like that live near a property that they sort of semi-maintain or want more access to, but
Could be a
they're
good
not
land
brought
steward.
That's what I was going to say. It would be a great nomination or candidate to be a land steward.
And I can tell you it matters because I'm my wife and I are land stewards for Camp Nikon. And I find that my mother-in-law takes my kids there more often than I can get there. So I have her report back to me. Although I was out doing errands and it was like 90 degrees out, and I just wanted to swing in and see it and check out the parking lot. It was too hot to go get out of the car. But yeah, I mean, the land stewards probably be a good way to funnel them in.
I can send you some information about the land steward brochure that I made. If you have people, you might want to pass that on.
Might be a good thing to put at the kiosks too.
Yeah, we did put one at Nikon. I don't think there's one. Is it Hathaway?
Yeah, my mother used to go there a lot. My brother goes in there, and I don't think either one of them would actually be interested in, reporting on things. It's just something when you mention that, it's kind of. It was the funny thing is my brother, he's not a resident of the town, but he's over here enough that I think he was taking his dog in there. He's a police officer. So, I mean, he's not going to be, if he sees something going on, something's supposed to be going on, he'll confront them. But he's also going to a place over in Plimpton a lot too. The one that's, get the name of it. I think it's off of Main Street on the rural end of Main Street. The one that kind of goes through the streams, and is it something Ridge? Can't remember.
I'm not familiar with the Plimpton side.
It's one of the other like headwater tributaries of the Jones River.
Okay, Matt would probably know. Another idea about member recruitment is, I don't know, I feel like the library might be a good place to put like some kind of brochure up there.
Mhm.
I believe they have a bulletin board when you first walk in. I was there the other day and I believe there is one, right in front of you when you walk in before you like take the right to actually get in. So that might actually be a great idea.
Okay, yeah, Matt was under the impression that the land steward stuff was on there as well, but I'd be worth going to check and see if they were, and then maybe adding an open space.
Yeah. Next time I'm up there, I'll double check. I kind of just ignored most of it, but because like he said, my schedule is full.
When you think about people who can be land stewards or volunteers or committee members, you don't think about that person who sits in front of the TV for 20 hours a day and eats Cheetos all day, it's like people who are busy are the kind of people who are qualified to do something, but they don't have the time to do it. What about conservation meetings? They do get some views. They do have people in attendance. I wonder if you can have like a sort of what they call an elevator speech or a little statement that kind of makes the concept attractive, at least for the land stewards, that maybe the chair or Matt or somebody could read. There might be a potential land steward on that commission who just hasn't thought of it, because they've all talked about it before.
What do you think, Megan? We could maybe at least do an announcement.
Yeah, either at the beginning or actually we'd probably have more people see it in the beginning than the end because they can drag a bit. So that might not be bad, with bills or around that time between signing of documents or whatever's between there and the next thing.
Now, yeah, that's something you can fill dead airspace with, like just have the statement at hand and, one meeting 1 month, 2 meetings the next month, you find yourself where you've got that like 5 minutes where you're between appointments where you had a set time and you can't go on to another agenda item, but you could probably read that out.
We do sometimes.
I can potentially, if you can get me the information on it, I could potentially pen something, send over to the selectmen, because the opening statements in their meeting probably get watched more than all the other meetings.
Okay, like send you some like verbiage.
Whatever
or-
details we would
Okay.
need to both make it attractive, but also frame it realistically as to what it is and what it's potentially not. I mean, I don't want to say too much about what it's not, but the enforcement aspect is going to put some people off. Really, all I thought you're doing is reporting things that you're seeing that shouldn't be happening. If you're noticing litter problems or ATV usage or what have you. But even when you say that, people are like, I don't know if I want to be telling what I saw. Okay, well.
Well, if they don't want to, they can always just call and report it. So they don't have to put themselves in a situation they don't want to be in either. No. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Excuse me. Which is trail work inventory spreadsheet. I did see it in the OneDrive.
Did you
Yeah.
have a look at it?
I did a little bit.
I've added a few tabs for project planning and if we needed to organize projects that required funding and try to figure out which funds we would target. I don't know, memory doesn't serve. I know Matt's gone a lot to the CPC and grants. You don't go to the Sampson Fund to get money for big ticket items, but there probably are some things that he would say, well, I don't have in my budget. But then, if we could buy a bunch of trail markers every few years out of Sampson Fund, have them sitting around so that, the like the metal ones you can nail to a tree or post or signpost or what have you. It'd be good to be thinking about those kinds of things. And thinking about the project where I want to integrate the trails, signage or trail marks and so forth is important. I think Sampson Fund would be good for that. So I think kind of keeping track of what our potential funding sources are. We're not always just thinking about the regular budgets and such. I included that. Does anybody have any suggestions they want to make before we can always evolve the document, but before we put a user draft up, because that's just a sort of a staging copy right now. Is there anything anyone thinks is missing or is superfluous that should be removed?
I can pull it up on a screen if that's helpful. Let me know.
I have it on mine, but I was
Okay.
just reading some of the, I know this is a draft, but like you can't read the columns. I assume it matches with the paper one. Like it says hall conservation, then the next line's Opachinski, then the next column is question mark. So there's nothing.
Okay, so the hall conservation, I think I put Opachinski because that's when I learned where it was.
Oh, okay.
Through there, so the location is like if it's at an intersection or beside it's on a certain street or beside the schools, like the Cranberry Watershed. It's just the most recognizable way to orient yourself in terms of where it was in the town. It doesn't mean it's the correct thing to use, but a lot of these places probably don't even have addresses. Parking there is the next one over, and it's a question mark, because I think when I wrote this up, I didn't know if there was parking. And while Opachinski has a lot of parking, if you're there at the wrong time, it has none. And you don't really have
Right.
parking right at the entryway, so it doesn't have its own dedicated parking. So when I was writing this up, originally I hadn't even been there. When we went, Megan, that was the first and only time I've been in there.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was something over. I'm saying, like I'm looking and there's no title, I guess, on top of these columns. So I have the paper copy in front of me, so I can look at the paper copy.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't know if that's just,
there are column headers, so there's a column, and I'm looking at not the most recent ones. I have my prior printed one. We have a column for tracking who any land stewards are. And I think you could probably put, hey, if I think I'm going to target somebody for the role, you could probably find a way to put them in there without it being official. Tracking weather, the things I hear about a lot, the problems we have are litter and ATV. There's probably some fires and stuff that people are lighting that shouldn't be happening, but I hear mostly about ATV, and that's a problem at Nikon.
right.
Reoccurring litter has been I think it was Patuxent and some of the others. Some places I've been to Callista, but multiple times and haven't seen an increase in litter. I think I had a column there about major tasks, which I'm just sort of thinking, okay, what do we need to do with the site? Is it trails? Is it basic cleanup? Matt mentions a lot of wetland restorations. We have poison ivy problems in some places, which make them. It's an access issue. I mean, I've showed up at Sampson Park, walked in, saw a lot of poison ivy once a few years ago, turned around and walked out. So those are things we have to kind of keep track of where that's happening. Rating the trails. We looked at there's some issues with the ones in the Hall's conservation area. Matt wants to relocate a few of them. It doesn't really form a loop. It's forming a Y, which is kind of weird, but we can't necessarily change it without maybe certain circumstances being involved, because I think there are agreements about changing the land too much. I have a column, at least for my benefit. I'm trying to put this integrated trails plan together, and I'm tracking which sites I think would fall along these kind of loop paths around town. I have Callista Farm marked as a not likely. It's certainly a point of interest along the way, but you'd have to walk from a main road down a series of dead ends to go in and then come right back out where you were. It wasn't really part of the intention of the plan, but I'm just sort of rating it based on whether I think it would fit in there. And then I don't know if this column header is proper, but I put OSC member familiarity. In my case, I'm tracking which properties I've been to, how many, approximately how many times. It doesn't need to be accurate, and then an estimate of how much of it I've explored. So I've been to Cranberry Watershed twice now. I think I've seen 60 or 70% of it. It's actually a low amount when you think about how many hours I spent walking around, but it's a big place. So for me, I have to get in there more often. And if there was one I hadn't been to and I had a question about it, I might look at this document and say, oh, it looks like, Megan's been to this one 4 times or 5 times. So maybe I'll get her impression of it and figure out if it's, if I can, whatever it is I'm looking for, I could reach out. So.
Right. I don't have any suggestions other than on my end, I don't have headers. But it's pretty easy to figure out for us, but
Yeah, I think it is, if you interact with the one in the OneDrive, maybe what we'll do is between now and the next meeting, we'll let people have time to interact with it, and then we'll get the final impressions before we create the version that will be what we use going forward. And we can change it. We can add columns. We can take them away. We can change our standards of formatting, whatever it is. I'm just a little hesitant to use the one that was the first draft as the one that we leave in place.
Yeah, and in the OneDrive, anybody can make edits to it. I know we discussed doing that like in the open meeting, but you can at least toy around with the draft and
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put an opinion there that would lead to something we might potentially vote on.
yeah. And then, you know, you can also track changes in Excel, like who made the suggestion, and you can see like who added what to it.
I mean, I'm rating the trails. I guess that in some ways that's an opinion, but none of the trail work we've done has ever been something subject to a vote or even a consensus in a meeting.
Okay,
Because Matt's gone out
Makes
there,
sense,
I
yeah.
just kind of leave it to him and, you know,
all right.
but I think that's one of the things I want to discuss is where do we think, and maybe that's something to talk to Matt about, since he's done this, I mean, at least certainly longer than me. How much of that stuff would a committee like this potentially vote on down the road?
vote on what?
Like doing something like if you're talking about trails and I mean, like where you're expressing an opinion, if you went into a property and you said the trails in here are really rough or they're not extensive enough or whatever the opinion was, is that something we'd ever have to vote on?
Oh, I see, yeah.
I mean, I don't think we'd ever vote on, I don't know if we'd ever vote on something having to do with funding.
Right, right. I feel like that would, but no, I understand what you're saying. But I think we're all kind of here for the same reason, to make sure that they're upkept, clean, accessible. They can't all be, all accessible to everybody, but at least there shouldn't be any major trees in the way, that fall from storms or any major trash. But I don't see why we'd have to actually vote other than,
I mean, if a tree falls on a trail and you say, I don't like that a tree fell on a trail, someone's just gonna go out with a saw and cut it, right? It's not like we're charging the public an entry fee and this impacts the rate or the sticker price or whatever it is. We're not voting on allocating town money towards these projects, right? That happens separate from this committee. I mean, pretty much we just do our roll call vote at the beginning and our adjournment vote at the end.
right,
Our meeting minutes. I mean, if we were out there cleaning up and somebody said, this trail could use a little work. Is that an
Right.
open meeting law violation? I kind of think no, because pick up your rake and rake it or whatever the thing is that you need to do.
right.
We've actually had like positive feedback lately about people happy that some of the trails are being maintained, and someone gave a donation recently, so I
Oh.
think they're happy to,
And we don't have to vote to even accept the donation, do we? Oh.
it's made to the town. so.
Yeah.
I'll ask Matt, but I have a feeling he'll say the same thing.
Right. I don't think we've ever voted. I'm trying to think in this. Maybe just to submit the open space report. I think that's the only thing we voted on, like the final copy of that. Other than that, I don't think we've ever.
Well, I put a page there for, projects, so that might steer project prioritization, and I put a page for project funding to kind of plan which of the sources we wanted to go for. But the reality is, I don't think we would ultimately vote on it. Matt would just take our consensus and he'd say, I'm taking this to CPC. We said, okay, Matt, well, we thought about this grant, but you're gonna take it to CPC. It's just what he's gonna do with it.
Well, I'd either have to take it to CPC or conservation, because if it's a big enough project, I feel like there's an overlap there where conservation would have to approve things, maybe. Like a kiosk, putting a kiosk somewhere, is that not something that conservation might have to approve, or is that kind of covered under Matt? Like those bigger projects maybe, or like fencing, or no?
I think it depends if it's in jurisdiction.
Right,
I would say kiosks mostly are kind of under Matt's purview, but some kind of fence or something was in jurisdiction, then I think it would.
Well, like trail markers is something that, conservation might say, we're gonna put these posts in to say that you can't do certain things beyond this buffer zone because it impacts the wetland. But wouldn't it be more our jurisdiction or whatever to say this is where the trails for use of the open space go? So if we were to buy trail markers, would we be potentially, if we said, Matt, go to the Sampson Fund and get $1,000 worth of trail markers? If we said something like that in the document, would that be an open meeting law violation? I think we should probably talk to him about what he would anticipate us doing and what would, potentially cross the line.
Okay.
I really don't think there's much that we.
right, I don't think so. I think we're thinking too much about it, honestly. So. Let me see. I don't have any edits or updates or suggestions for you, Heath. I think it looks great. I like the new, like the project planning, because if it is something, we used to go to Silver Lake Sanctuary. I don't walk very much in the summer because I can't breathe once the temperature hits about 90. So once we get to cooler weather, we'll be going back out. But we used to do Silver Lake Sanctuary a lot. We've done Blackwater a ton. We used to be in Camp Nikon, but once the weather gets a little more cooperative, then we'll be back out there.
Yeah, I went to Nikon. I was not getting out of the car. And I just went up,
Yeah.
I took a picture of the kiosk. Because it has like an off-white or light green, sort of like backboard, there's some graffiti there. And it got me thinking about how do we go about, is that something that, just in talking about the properties, how do we organize cleaning up something like that? Is that something that's on Matt's radar, or should we have a process? I'm one of the land stewards there. I'm wondering if I should go and take the maps off of it and slap on a coat of paint or something, come back later and try and put the maps back up. Maybe we need to think about something like that too. And that's one of the things I think this document might help us track and understand how to
Right.
go. Because I don't want to go bring a can of paint I already have at home out there if it's not the color the conservation department wants. And if they have a color they want, and it's not their budget to buy it, it doesn't get done. So, how do we work our way through it? Do we volunteer? Resources, whatever it is.
Right. Do we know if, well, I guess he can't really. We had spoken about reaching out to the high school for community service hours as well, because I know that they started requiring community service again for a graduation requirement. So that might be something to start thinking about since September's coming up.
You could really use them in the Cranberry Watershed Preserve.
Well, and they know it. They all know they go back there for gym class. And if they're in a sport, then they go back there for running. And if they're, or they hang out and ride bikes back there. My youngest is that age and all the middle school goes there. They all hang out back there. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of aluminum cans, like on some of those slopes down from the main pass towards like the bog area,
yeah,
where, at my age, I'm like, I don't know if I want to crawl down there and then reach into a thorny shrub to get a can out. But when I was 16 or 17, I probably would have done it without thinking about it and got it done. So,
right. And if they can go in there and come out with a few bags of trash, I'm sure Matt would be more than willing to sign off in some hours for them.
I'll ask Matt about that tomorrow.
and I think it said last meeting is we have some Cub Scouts who I don't know if it was a requirement or a merit badge or something, but they want to get involved in something that's appropriate for them. And I was thinking the tarp material out at Hall's Conservation Area, because there's a lot of loose pieces in that area. And I think the kids could make a little competition that if we can pick up the most. We wouldn't have them do anything that wasn't safe, but something to think about as well.
Also, I just thought of this, I don't know why. It has come to my attention via Facebook that everyone is calling Bay Farm the dog beach park. Again, so months ago, I spoke with Duxbury Conservation Agent or whomever answered the phone at the Duxbury Conservation Agent's phone. They verified for me that they are supposed to be on leashes. They also verified that they're supposed to clean up after their dog. They also verified that it is conservation land, not a dog park. I don't know how, not that I want to squash the fun, but I've seen what some of those dogs leave behind, and it is absolutely atrocious. And I fear that if now they're considering this like a dog beach park, I don't know if I said that right, that it's gonna just get worse. Like the stuff left behind is gonna get worse. It's gonna get closer to the water. I don't know if we need better signage there or just like some eyeballs there, but I just realized this the last few days, the last week or so, but my schedule's so crazy. I'm home and then I'm not home, and then I'm home and I leave again this Thursday. It's just insane. But I'm glad I remembered that. I did want to bring that to you guys' attention that according to Facebook, the town pages, it is all about the dog beach at Bay Farm. And I said, hey, this is conservation area, and everyone just kind of laughed at me, and I was like, no, seriously. But I think it's going to be an issue. It's been a continuous issue, but the people in Duxbury said that there's no Duxbury leash law. I tried to explain to them that it is, but it's kind of fruitless. But I just wanted to make you guys aware that I think there is an issue down there with some misunderstanding on what that land actually is.
So the towns work together on joint signage, do you know?
I know Matt has a good relationship with the Duxbury Conservation Agent. I'm sure she would be.
She was super sweet. Whoever I spoke to, this was months ago that I actually made this phone call, but she was super great, and she was just as floored as I was. Like, I just want to call before I'm not talking out of my butt here, but she was like, oh, no, this is not supposed to be happening. But it is, because people call it the dog beach. I'm like, it's not a dog beach, guys. So I don't know. There needs to, I don't know.
That
But
up tomorrow. I'm sure she would be willing to work with him on that. I know just recently this week, there was some calls about, not at Bay Farm, but just more off-leash problems, and that had discussed like starting to enforce that more. I know that a lot of them are on the Duxbury side there.
yeah. Well,
You
that's,
know, they close beaches when it's like bacteria problems, they can get the two
well,
towns.
that's how the
Let's say
talk
It's a
started.
nitrogen problem in the field and in the water because of the dogs.
Well, it started because they said, is Grays Beach still closed? I wanted to bring my dog to the dog beach up the street. And I was like, what dog beach up the street? And they were like, oh, that's Bay Farm. It's totally different water. And I was like, but
No, it's
how? Okay, let's
It
start
ebbs and flows
one,
with the
it's
tide.
not, and two, it's not a dog beach park. It's conservation land, guys. And like, tell that to my dog. And I was like, your dog's supposed to be on leash and under your control. Not there. It's leash free. I'm like, no, it's not. Well, that's Kingston side, not Duxbury. And I'm like, no, it's all of it. No, you're wrong. And I'm like, okay, yep, you're okay. Then it gets colorful and I just back out of that, but it's definitely an issue. So it was interesting to say the least. But
I'll bring it to his attention tomorrow.
all right, let me pull up the dialogue. The next thing on the agenda is open forum. That was my little open forum bit, I guess. Hi. And
Can I say something again?
You have
Sure.
to, you have to,
I know.
you just
I
have
know
to
it works.
give us your name, please.
Kim Ember, 214. I am here because at our selectmen's meeting last week, we had a presentation on townwide transportation assessment from the environmental partners, talking about all of the potential road work and sidewalks and other things that we could potentially pursue in the coming years. And it's a prioritization of those projects, but part of that was several maps. And I know you guys have this lovely map in the office with all the properties and descriptions and everything, but what they provided us in the meeting, which I wanted to share with you, and I can make sure you all get a copy, is they have existing conditions, but they also had proposed projects aligned with planned facilities. So they looked at the open space plan that you guys created and integrated that into this map.
Oh,
So I
nice.
thought it'd be really helpful for you guys to have as you think about interconnected trails and other things, sidewalks for these things as well.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. Thank you.
Like a copy.
There are extra copies in the town administrator's office too.
Okay.
If you want.
Perfect.
I saw them there, so I had to grab one for you. This one's got my notes on it. You don't need that. So that's it. That's why.
No, thank you so much. That sounds great. Yeah.
Now go find some new members.
Yeah.
Finding some other people for other things, like school committee and other things that have openings.
Capital planning.
Capital planning, finance committee. I can keep going.
I think conservation's the only full board.
We have 5 on the selectmen.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that's great. Does anyone else?
So, you
Excuse
know,
me.
just going, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but is there a PDF of that we can maybe
Should be in the meeting materials from last week.
add to the OneDrive or slice out the sections that are relevant to us? And then we can actually put it to some use. We don't have to steal all the print
What the
copies and
date
send
was
them
on
to
that?
them.
It was last Tuesday, so
Okay.
today is the 6th, so it would have been July 31st.
Okay.
You
30th.
can have to label it
30th?
reference material or something.
Yeah, 30th.
Good, thank
I love
you.
that idea. I love that map. I can't wait to see it.
I'd hold it up and I don't think the camera will do it justice.
Yeah. The camera might, my eyeballs might not. Oh, yeah.
Got like proposed trails and where the train is and trailheads that exist.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Yeah. Oh, that looks neat. Oh, I can't wait. Thank you.
Gates to do some of the road work, but
Well, it took Lexington decades to do their integrated trail system, and they're still doing it, so. You gotta start someplace and
Yeah.
persist.
Right. And does anyone else have any, Heath or Jada for open forum? Or Juliana?
I just want to make a quick announcement that, I'll be doing the open space meetings for now, and anything that needs to be coordinated with Matt, I'll coordinate that back to him, or we can do that via email. But he's just a little swamped right now, so I'm gonna
Okay.
start the open space meetings.
That's nice. I'm glad you're back in building. Sure
Thanks,
makes it much nicer for you and everybody, and
good to be back.
I bet. We don't have meeting minutes, right? I didn't see them.
No, since I was out, I
Right.
haven't got everything finalized yet, but they'll be up in September
Yeah,
in last month.
works for me. The only other thing would be future meetings. Is that just to pick a date, or is there something to consider?
Well, I think that in terms of the inventory, you know, I figure we'll probably just have one more month to figure out if we want to make any major changes before we put up a draft version, or not a draft version, but a working version going forward. But it's been on the agenda every meeting anyway, and that probably will be because there's always something new to talk about if we're doing stuff. Do we need a work day, or is it just too hot to do it?
I can tell you I am not here this weekend. I'm home next weekend. I'm gone the next weekend. I'm home and then I'm away. So,
Not a good month.
right, I would say after mid-September, and once I think the weather kind of cooperates, might be a better idea. For me, anyways, I know I wouldn't be able to find a time to find a group effort anyways.
Yeah,
Oh,
some of the stuff I have in mind is just stuff I'd put as a plan B. Like if, you know, if we were going out for a big organized thing and someone couldn't make it, the person was gonna, you know, when we planned to go with Matt a few times and it turns out he couldn't make it, you know, something like Callista would be a good plan B to get everyone to, but I don't have any big ones. right now.
Matt mentioned today that he still needs to do the stuff at the Hall property. You guys know that, so maybe if he can do that and it's like schedule a work day in September or something or
Mhm. But he was also looking to check whether a place for potential entry trailhead and like parking lot along Henrik was wet beneath the surface grade.
Mm.
was gonna auger down.
So he did do a wetland delineation there. He got one done. So I'll check with him.
That was his big push a
Yeah,
while
it's-
back and then,
I think I briefly looked at the delineation. I think it will, I don't think it'll work in that spot that he intended. I think he's gonna have to swap parcels, so I'll follow up with him tomorrow about that.
You said he did the wetland delineation at the Hall property?
At the Heinrich for the
The
parking
Heinrich,
area.
okay. Alright.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have to swap parcels.
Right, that was the one that he got the wet one instead of the dry one or something, basically. So he's gonna have to do a swap, yeah. Okay. Also, I just remembered, we have this new awesome split rail fence down at, the Blackwater Memorial that was finally installed. If you haven't seen it, please go look. It is glorious, and I would like to thank Matt, Jim's dad. I don't know who else helped, but if I'm forgetting them, I apologize, but it looks great. It looks so official down there.
Seen it yet. But I've heard about it.
Looks so fancy, and now we won't have cars driving back there. Hanging out past dark.
how's that property this time of year? So I've been in there winter and fall. I don't imagine, it seems like the kind of place that probably isn't covered with poison ivy in the walking areas or anything. in the
I've
summer.
never seen poison ivy in there. The grass gets pretty tall, like in the walking areas. I haven't been in there recently, but I know we were at, like, Frank was in the parking area when Jim was doing the fence, and he had a tick on him within 5 minutes. There's definitely ticks in there. There's always been ticks in there though. So, other than that, most of the trails stay open because just the way the forest is and the way that it's been the same trails, and there's wildlife in there. I swear they walk right the same spots, but other than that, I, knock on wood, have never had an issue with poison ivy in there. Rain season gets pretty muddy on, like, to the right side when you first enter, but other than that, that's the only issue that's ever really, other than a random tree falling from a storm. Or I do want to get in there, just the weather is not cooperating. Mm. But the fence looks great. All right, other than that, I'm fine. I'm good with the 1 month meeting. That's September. Is that September? Wow. September 3rd. All right. If there is nothing else, I can do the closing remarks. All right, the next meeting will be held Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024, starting at 5:45 p.m. The time is now 6:25 p.m. Will a member make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Awesome. Can I second that, or does Jada have to second that?
I think you can second it.
It doesn't matter.
All right, well, I'll say second just for fun. I will do a roll call. Megan is a yes. Jada?
Yes.
Heath?
Heath, aye.
All right. Motion passes. The meeting is closed.